Welcome to the Properties to Profit podcast. I'm Michael, your host. Excited to share with you my journey from a six-figure job to building a successful real estate business. Each episode will explore various aspects of real estate investing, from wholesaling and flipping to managing rentals. I'll share the lessons and insights I've gained, aiming to help you avoid mistakes and achieve your financial goals. Expect guest experts, valuable tips, and practical advice to guide you on your own real estate journey. Thank you for tuning in. If you find any value in this podcast, please subscribe, share, and follow me on social media. Let's turn properties into profits together. Is college for you? Are you someone who should finish college? Well, this is Michael here with the Properties to Profit podcast and YouTube channel. That was a question I got this weekend. And my answer to this young man when he asked me that question was, I don't know. Sorry, but I just don't know your story and you well enough to give you that. But here's some tips on what I did to figure out if it was right for me. So when I was in college, I personally struggled with school my entire life. It was something that I never did well and I never thrived at it and just never excelled at it. There were a couple grades, math and things like that where I did okay, physics even, but Spanish, English, none of that I did well in, arts. And so for me, when I was making that decision, I was my second semester in to college. The first semester didn't go that well, but I did show up most of the classes. Second semester in, they were talking about how much we were going to make with our degrees, and it was like $55,000 or something like that. I kind of looked around the room and realized I was going to spend $60,000 to make 55. I was already making more than that. I had worked for myself in a landscaping business, and I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I going to spend $50,000 to make what I already make? And I kind of enjoyed what I was doing. Didn't love it, but I enjoyed it. And I did it for the next 8 or 9 years. And so for me, I knew right then and there, it wasn't going to be the right decision. But how did I know at that moment it wasn't going to be the right decision for me to continue on with college? Well, let's take a step back. For me, I was always someone who never really needed an alarm clock or someone to get me up ever since 5th or 6th grade. Whenever it snowed, I'd get up 3 a.m., go shovel driveways before school, go to school, do my homework, and then shovel driveways before any parents got home. And I never asked for money, but money always showed up. I just always did the work. I've always been one to be able to do really well with physical manual labor, something I've always enjoyed. My body always put up with it, and I did that for 8 years as an adult. And so for me, I knew I had the work ethic to go do the work, and I didn't need a college degree. And I didn't need taught how to make money like a lot of people. They need to learn a skill, and they need to love what they do. For me, I've never been someone who has ever loved work. I just believe if you do the work, good things come. And I've always valued that personally. So for me, it was a pretty easy decision. I had proof sources for over a decade when I was in high school, middle school, and even elementary school that whenever opportunity arose to work, I worked. I did the work. Always finished the jobs, never complained, and just went and went and went. And so that was my story going into college. I knew college wasn't for me. I knew I was always going to be a business owner, and all the people teaching business and marketing and stuff like that had never done it. And I was just learning by Googling. At the time, Yahoo and Google were kind of at the top of the charts as ties there. I would just go to Google how to grow a landscaping business or how to market, how to do sales. And then I go to Yahoo, do the same thing, read different articles. And that's how I learned. I would stay up to midnight trying to learn something, then get up the next morning at 5 a.m. and go mow some grass, mulch some yards, whatever it took. And eventually grew that to where at one point I had over 30 employees. And so for me, college wasn't the right decision. I was someone who was more hands-on, more active, but I was always someone who was going to figure out when things went wrong. Now, for this young man, him and I continued talking, and he said he was failing 2 courses, and he said it just wasn't for him. He didn't enjoy it. And I asked him a couple questions. I said, hey, are you going to school to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, or anything where you absolutely need a degree to do that job? He was like, no, I do my job currently. I just get a small raise when I get my degree. I was like, okay, well, how do you like your job? Because if he likes his job and can get a raise, it'll probably add up over time, enough time. It don't make sense. He's like, I hate my job. I literally do it just to pay my bills. I'm like, okay, tell me more. And he's like, my parents really want me to go to college. And I think for most of us, that's why we go to college. Society deems it as necessary. They don't actually look at the individual and decide it's best for that individual. They look at it as a whole and say, hey, this is necessary for all of us. I do think that's probably changing in today's world, but I'm not sure it has completely changed just yet. So this young man, I said, okay, you don't want to go to college. Is it you just don't like to work, or what's going on? He's like, no, I don't mind work. I just don't think school's for me. I enjoy sales. I enjoy real estate, all of those things. And he's like, you've done pretty well in real estate and you didn't go to school. It's like, well, that is true. I had 10 plus years of learning sales and experience and before I got into real estate. So I had real life experience before I started it. This young man was 19. And so I shared with him a couple more things. I was like, you got to know yourself. You got to know what you're going to do when times get tough. You got to do what you've got to do for yourself. And I shared with him at one point, my family was upset with me because I didn't go to college. I didn't talk to them for several weeks. And at one point I had a rough boat with my mom. I didn't talk to her for I think almost a year as an adult when I was 26 or 27. And so I want people to realize that when you do something against the grain or the ordinary, you're going to upset some people. And you got to decide, are you going to upset others or are you going to upset yourself? Because a lot of times if you do what others want, it's not what you want. And you're going to suffer either way. And so tell people all the time, look through the lens of, if this person's dead, will I still care what they think? And if the answer is no, you probably know what to do. If the answer is yes, then you probably shouldn't do it. So that is how I look through a lens. And that's why I've always done stuff my way, is I believe that I have a really great sense of judgment. And I know that when things get tough, I'm always going to do the work. And for this young man, I didn't know enough about him to give him that advice, but I said, why don't you just have a conversation with your parents? And he was like, well, I have. I was like, okay, how those conversations go? He's like, they're just really upset that I wouldn't want to go to college. They think that's the easiest way and the safest way to play. I'm like, okay, that's great. How do you feel about that? He goes, I don't believe in playing it safe. I said, your parents don't believe in what you believe in. You don't believe in what your parents believe in. Real shocker. I think in today's world, more and more parents are more divided and out of tune with what their kids want and need in this life, in the world that we currently live in. And I think as a parent, my job, my little girl's 2, my goal in life is that when she becomes a young lady or an adult, depending on how mature she is, I want her to make her own decisions in life. Whatever that is, if it's to go travel, so be it. I may not agree with it, but it's what she wants to do. As long as she isn't living off of other people's money and taking advantage of people, I don't care. If it's art, not for me. If it's she wants to try to become a musician, not for me. But the thing is, I'm not her, and she's definitely not going to be me. We are all very unique to ourselves, and that's what I want to talk about here is don't do what's best for others. Do what's best for you, because when you do what's best for you, you can go back and help them and do what's best for them. Let me give you the example. We've all been on an airplane. They always say, hey, if you're with a little one, put the oxygen mask on you first and then a little one. And it's because the little one may have some issues. Putting an oxygen mask might fight you, and you may fight them. And if you fight them too long, you will lose oxygen. And if you lose oxygen, you pass out, and both of you lose. So the idea is, if you can help yourself, you still stand a chance to help that young one. Well, if your family's struggling financially or isn't going to be in a place when they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s, or whatever that looks like for your family, and you're trying to please them now, and if this is your goal, you won't be able to help them out later on in life if you're always doing what they want. Because if you always do what they want, you'll probably have the same life that they have. And so I really want you to think about that when you're trying to decide if you should go into business for yourself or go to school or anything along those lines. Big, major life decisions, want you to know it's your life. Know yourself. Know when the obstacles get tough. Are you someone who's going to continue to work through those? Are you someone who's going to overcome those obstacles, whatever they may look like? If not, then maybe being a business owner isn't the best thing for you. Maybe go to college and work for someone else. Not a bad thing. But in today's society, I don't think with how expensive college is a necessary item to be successful in today's society norms. I know so many people who went to college who, one, never used their degree, wasted $40,000 or 50 or 60 or even 100 partying, or two, went to college and still make 30, 40 grand a year, and they could have found a job, skipped the whole college thing, never gone into $50,000 in debt, and the entire 4 years that they were partying or having fun at college, not making any money, they could have got a job making $20,000, $30,000, which Warren Buffett says compound interest is the seventh wonder of the world. What would you have done if you could compound interest on an extra $20,000 and not rack up the debt of 50, 60 or more $1,000 in debt? How would that make your financial future look, or your family's financial future look? So just to wrap up with this, guys, know yourself before you decide if you're going to leave college. And no, that's such a terrible question to ask someone else what to do, especially a stranger who doesn't know you. Really ask that person and give them tangible advice where you are in life, who you are, and what you're trying to do in your life. Don't say you want to be like them, because the truth is you'll never be them. You're uniquely you, and that is fantastic. I'll never be like anyone else. I'll never be like my grandparents or my parents or Ed Milet or anyone else. I'll never be Michael Jordan. I will be Michael Smith, and uniquely Michael Smith. Guys, I appreciate this. If you know anyone who's struggling with a major life decision and you think they can find value, please share that to them, and shoot me a DM on Instagram if you guys have any questions. RealEstateMike02. Thanks. Thank you for listening to the Properties for Profit podcast. I hope you found today's episode valuable. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and share it with others who might benefit. Follow me on social media for more updates and tips. Until next time, keep turning properties into profits.